Hello. So, kind of a different video on this one where I want to talk about some musical, expression topic and less of a instructional how to do it type of video. The whole idea is kind of why do we play music? Why do I play music? What I try to achieve through playing music? What has changed through the years of playing music? That brings me to this place of the kind of music I'm trying to play now. It's been kind of a long journey playing since I'm 7 years old or something like that. So it's been a long journey of playing different instruments in different contexts. What has changed a lot, again, at some point in the last few years, was kind of the way I was forced to re-examine playing music, because I ended up getting focal dystonia in the right hand that pretty much stopped all my playing until I could overcome it. And I have pretty much overcome that nearly at 100%. And I will have a whole series of video on focal dystonia and everything I've learned and how to work through it. So the big thing I've learned through that was about the neuroplasticity. And that's a topic that we can hear and read a lot more about these days. And kind of what is neuroplasticity? That the ability of the brain, with the plasticity of the brain, to shape itself, fix itself, redensify itself. It's like just remodeling itself. One of the amazing person to read about that is Dr. Farias, that has many books out there, like a great one called Intertwined. It's a whole series with the emotional condition and with Ferber. Another one that's been great is Kenny Werner with a book called Effortless Mastery that really changed my musical journey years ago from reading his book and playing along his Ebersol play along. So the journey kind of with that changed as I started playing classical music on the clarinet when I was a kid. And they were kind of always telling you what to play and how to play. And it's like you have a model that you're supposed to play like. And you're learning to try to shape yourself to that ideal model. Learning about the rhythm and the pitch, how to articulate, just everything. And a complete different concept than trying to teach you to learn about sound. What do sound means to you? How do you interact with sound, shaping sound? And later on, to go down the road, if you're trying to go to a different area of music, the specific skills to learn those areas. If you're learning playing Western music, if you're trying to play, rock, or if you're trying to play, classical, or you're trying to play, funk or whatever else. So I don't want to go, too far back because, it would be a 2-hour video. When I got out of the conservatory, a lot of it was not a great experience, and I was not doing quite very well at it. But my love of music was very intense since I was a little kid. I used to listen on the little AM station, late at night under my bed cover, to Middle East radio station, listening to all those different voices, and I would hear those women singing, for example, with all those pitch, quarter pitch, how the way they shape the sound, in between the regular pitches for emotions, and I'm listening to all of that different music and going like, wow, there's a lot of richness in all those different sounds. And then you could hear people from Africa with some of the rhythm and all those different cultures. And then the Western music with the harmony, and then so all those pieces, and kind of goes, why are all those music in some way quite different, and everything is kind of in its own area, where sound, it seems, is kind of a universal means of communicating. So when I got back to the US and I picked up my saxophone at first thing I used to do was take that tenor sax, go on top of the mountains, and watch the view, and just kind of look at the colors and what I would perceive out there, and making sounds with it, just making sounds. I mean, I knew the notes and the scales from playing clarinet and so on, but I was discovering the tenor sax and how to shape the sound. And what it was doing was no agenda. I was not trying to become a bebop player or anything. Was just making sound, and how that was making me feel, and the experience of that instrument vibrating, the blowing, and starting to be aware of my body pushing air through that tube, if you want. So now let's go further in the future. So after the dystonia and studying about the neuroplasticity, as I was aware of the changes in my hand and what happened in the brain, I mean, they can map it. You can see the problem with the areas crossing and so on. I realized that everything that you do, everything that you think, everything that you see, you perceive, actually change the physical nature of your brain. And in the last few years, I finally did a lot of mapping. It was a great documentary where you see someone learning to sing over a year, and they do the scan, and you can see that brain area just densify, create more connection, and so on. So then you realize that what we do end up physically changing our brain. By changing our brain, we now interact in a different way with the world around us. We perceive it in a different way. So everything we do is quite important because it does shape ourselves like a bodybuilder. I mean, different area of the brain we're going to strengthen and we're going to densify. It's going to really change our perception of music, of the world, of everything that we connect to outside stimulus and even within ourselves. So with the dystonia, I had to learn that the instrument was not the enemy. The other thing I had to learn was endless patience, because you're not on your terms anymore. You're on the terms of how the brain's going to evolve. The more you try to fight it, the harder it becomes. So now there's no more timeline. All you can do is surrender yourself to just playing and playing the sound, because you get so limited to what you can do. I mean, finally, I'm so glad I can play at pretty much normal speed and quite fast again. But for years was playing extremely slow and being happy that you can make sounds, because I love so much playing that instrument. Just the joy of making sound and hearing it, vibrating with it, was the reason why there's no way I could give up on it. So the approach with playing the music, it's to really looking at going back to the sound. Why do we produce that sound? When we start to get so immersed of the sound, everything wakes up and we become way more in total control of our mind and of our body. So as we get totally in control, because we have to concentrate on the breathing, and like with the dystonia, you concentrate on just completely relaxing, and every areas of your body in the shoulder that moves, you start to perceive everything that's completely blocking the air, the movement, the finger from moving normally, and how the emotion are so strong. The emotion goes through your physical, and the more you block something, the more the emotion wants to even further restrict your ability to play and to let the energy. And then it becomes just like you get so mad, you get angry, just so many things happen. And you have to go back to square one, which is the big thing in effortless mastery, and saying, well, I will take it as simple as it has to be, and I will take it for as long, because it doesn't matter, like I said in the other video, we're never going to get there. I mean, you can listen to Sonny Rollins. He's not playing anymore, and there's so many things he wanted to achieve, and he won't be able to achieve them. And he has to make peace with that. So once you realize that you're never going to get to the goal, then there is no more goal. The goal is just the joy, the experience, and what you feel and you go through every day by having the chance to blow that instrument, to sing, or to do whatever you do with a musical device. I mean, doesn't even have to be a musical device. When you look like, for example, Neil Cassidy, he was swinging the hammer. He became a master at swinging the hammer and completely shaped himself with doing that amazing skill that he would do with a hammer. So any object, that's what happened with all the different activities, I mean, being yoga and so on. By doing something where you go deep into it and you really self-reflect and observe, you end up achieving a lot in all of your senses, and you end up completely changing yourself, mind, and body, and your experience with how you relate to the world. So again, the big thing with the playing with no goals, just exploring the sound. So like in effortless mastery, what it talks about a lot is when we go through school, you can pass school with 70%. But then there is fear of what you don't know. Why not try to learn everything at 100% until you move to the next area? That's a big thing I learned from Kenny Werner. It's if you need to spend a year just playing one note, rejoice into it. So for example, let's play like, I don't know, like an F. So just, I mean, I could, for us, I'm playing a new mouthpiece, that's why sometimes a little out of tune and so on. I'm discovering playing a ebonite mouthpiece instead of a metal mouthpiece. So it's a whole journey of learning to play differently. So the idea I was doing here to try to get the sound to come on top of the air. That's a big thing from George Garzon. So if you listen to George Garzon, which talks about yoga, breathing, and how he learned it from Zen master, and the whole concept of the air, and then the sound come over the air. A lot of those people talk about those amazing concepts. So once you don't have a timeline, you don't have a goal, you completely free yourself to do anything, experience anything with your instrument, like trying multiphonics, trying to do the whole range of the instrument, weird sound, completely exploring. Like there is some saxophone player, I ask him, what's the loudest sound you can make with your instrument? And they've been playing for years and they say, I never tried. Or what's the quietest sound you can make? And it's funny because depending where you are, people get afraid of bothering the neighbor, or just almost like you're doing something wrong or dirty, or it's just the whole concept of wrong. There is nothing wrong. It sounds. You can try anything. So that's a big thing that was different from departing from the classical studies and a lot of the studies along the way, where they try to teach you almost the right and the wrong, where there is no wrong. It doesn't matter where you go, what you do, because it's just a voice. And that was a big thing that got to me with playing the instrument. The instruments is my tool. I don't really like the word tool. I mean, wish I had a better word for that. But it's my means of my voice of communicating with other living creatures. And when I say living, I should say living organisms. Because I care, or it just makes the same impression on me, for example, to play for the trees in the forest that it does to play for other people, or to play for animals, to play for a lizard, to play for, cows in the field, to play for a rabbit. It's a place I used to practice a lot. I'd play, and if I was playing really nice and really mellow sound that were just deep and resonating, the lizard used to come out and hang out. And if suddenly I would get a little bit of edge in the sound, or the sound was just getting more stressed, they would run. The rabbits would come by, the birds. So then you start to realize that other life forms just really can perceive the shape of the sound that you're putting out. So as we play, it makes sound. It could be on the guitar, on the piano. On the piano, you listen to different piano players. They all play the same instrument. You could put Monk, or you could put Bill Evans. You could put, different players on that same instrument, and it sounds like they're playing a completely different piano, just from the attack. I'm talking beyond the wording. Just they could play the same middle C, and from the way they make it ring, you can tell the personality, which is even way more difficult or remote from doing with a wind instrument, where you're having your throat, you're having your own morphology, shape, that sound, which make it more easy to recognize. And that's what's amazing with the instrument, is to try to be okay with it, with that authentic sound, to kind of run with it and not mimic something else. We can try to mimic, to learn to be aware, but there's no right and wrong how to develop that voice to communicate. It's like when you get together with some friends or with other people and you have an amazing conversation. You didn't have a script. You didn't think ahead of time, this is how I'm going to have that conversation. The conversation happened, which is the same as playing free spontaneous music. We all react to the different sound. We contribute to the exchange. But to be able to do that, you're going to be really aware of what's happening within yourself, within your instruments, and why you're creating the sound. Because depending what phrase you play, suddenly you may be aware of the noise or something may come through. I'm playing that phrase so I can impress. I'm playing that phrase so people can hear I can play high. I'm playing that phrase so people hear I can play an exponential rhythm. I'm playing this. Well, suddenly it's like, what's the point? It's kind of like being in a conversation, and sometimes you can have those conversations where you talk with someone and you have the impression the person just is trying to tell you about which chapter he read something, or trying to say about those 10 books he read, and dropping names and so on, which is, it's stale information. It's not in the moment. Doesn't matter. Who cares? All that cares is like you naked in this place, what you are within yourself, how you have shaped your brain from the journey where you are now, the density, that neuroplasticity which has shaped you from those activities and the thoughts and how you have felt. Now you're in that place in time, crossing the path with other individuals that hopefully can be in that same mind frame, and we can all exchange. Again, playing with the tree, going to the forest, seeing that big tree that's been there for hundreds of years or thousands of years in some places. When you think about the history of the planet, he's been there through the storm, the wind, the changes, and he's gonna perceive. There's a vibration. The vibration from your horn is gonna go through the bark. So it's a way of exchanging with the tree. And I remember some of the first time I had some pretty intense exchange. It feels like almost energy exchange with trees and like that. And the first time I kind of felt the tree, what it was like to be a tree. So you're in front of that tree and suddenly, or you play for the tree or you're in front of it, and then you sense to be like a tree. Which, not trying to put it in human emotions, going beyond that, it was almost just like a very peaceful experience of being a tree. But with a stress in being a tree. Because when the wind gets really strong, that tree was huge in front of the top of a mountain. And it's like, wow, you've withstand, all those years of just amazing wind. You could see how it was shaped, that huge tree, and being kind of bent a bit through the whole being of the tree. How he had to resist to not get uprooted. So in its tree language, in its tree experience, I don't like really the word felt, but he has experience because it's alive changes. I mean, just living through all of those moments. So going back to our drones, or going back to the free music, like in here I was playing with Wodja and a synthesizer. Wodja, which cool app that just makes all those, you can make a lot of very free type of music, but along some concept where you can choose how free or where it goes and have some direction, kind of like shaping the side of the river. I love this application. So that's why I made quite a bit of music with it. That was just a little example just to start tonight. To make a music that you have some idea about the tonal centers, but surprises you. You don't know what's going to happen. So it forces you to listen and then to play along with it with no idea what's going to happen, and you're just going to have to sense and perceive. Along those lines, I mean, I love albums, for example, like of Alice Coltrane. There was a Journey to Satchidananda, where you hear Cecil McBee playing just those nice bass line, reoccurring bass line, and Rashid Ali on the drums. I mean, amazing band. And just creating those colors where you hear Pharoah Sanders just play those lines, and those lines are just color. And I had the chance to hear Pharoah Sanders live before, and I had one amazing experience with Pharoah Sanders. So he was playing at the Jazz Bakery in Los Angeles, and I got there early and told the person that were running the place, I got to be just up front watching Pharoah, and they all just stand by the door. There is nothing number, so we're going to open the door from the inside, so I could see which way the door was going to open, so I could run to the front. And then I could take a peek earlier and look at the different mic stand and how the stage was being set, so I knew which mic he was going to be. And I run for that chair, and I'm sitting in that front row. I mean, probably 4 feet away or 3 feet away from where he's standing. It was an amazing concert too with Dwight Treble, which I'm a huge fan of. I mean, what he does with the voice. So in the middle of the concert, I'm just like looking at Pharoah, and he's just blowing. I mean, it's just like the sound. It's coming out of his bell. You're just swimming in it. You're experiencing it. It's just like the whole thing was liquid. It was amazing. And then I'm just staring at him, and it's just like the music could not get any more intense. And then suddenly he just stopped playing. He put the hand to the side. He looked at me, and he just let an intense primal scream. And I'm just like, ooh, was I like, wow. I mean, it was just intense. And everything that was happening with Dwight Treble that night and everything. I mean, the stage was just floating. I mean, people were like this. I mean, all the way through the room. I mean, it was just an experience. It was just so intense, uplifting. You came out of there completely transformed. And that's the last little topic I want to talk about, transformation, which brings us back to the beginning of neuroplasticity. It means every time we experience those new moments, we do change our brain. And as we change our brain, we're never going to be the same person. It's like kind of going through a portal. It's when I went through that Pharoah Sanders concert, who walked in the room and who walked out was a transformed person. It has completely affected every day after that. What Pharoah played, how he played, the energy he put out, the meaning, the depth that was coming out of that music, and the way Dwight Treble was singing, and I forgot the names of them, I know who they are, but I cannot just bring the name right now. Everybody was just absolutely in top form. And the way the audience participated and was into it, I mean, we were like that room, they closed the door, and we rode the spaceship, and then we landed in a different place in that space-time continuum, and then we stepped out, and then we kept our journey. And that's those such intense experience, and that's what I love about playing my horn every day, or every time I get to play music, is we're making sound. And if we really go deep into the sound, and we look at it as a transforming moment, every day we play, we become someone different. We keep moving further. And sometimes I go, every day I play, I'm so happy I get to play. But it's like, whoa, that's one less day I get to play. So, I mean, that's kind of the dark side of it. It's like you never want it to end because the love of playing the music, the love of being able to make sounds, the love of being able to blow and feel the energy and feel alive and just feel how all of that contribute to changing myself from the brain and the neuroplasticity. And watching like Dwight Tribber, I've seen so many times, watching, Pharaoh and all those players I got the chance through the years to see. Like I've been watching a lot of Darius Jones lately that does some amazing thing. I saw him live in Geneva, same thing, I was right in front of him. And then Darius is starting to play those free lines. I mean, it was just mind-boggling. You got just transported. You were just understanding by those sound the way he was playing those scales, and just I can't find the word, budding those sound next to each other in the ways I would have never thought. Just completely connected some note pitch in my brain and changed my brain structure. Same thing with like Gary Bartz. Gary Bartz doesn't take any break. The whole concert, it's a happy journey. And even he talks about it at the beginning. I mean, it's like he's in that place. I mean, it's a celebration again. It's completely different from other concerts I've experienced and so on, because it's like cherishing this moment we get to have, and cherishing every moment we get to play our instrument. And that's what I'm going to leave this video with, is I hope that I can give you some desire to really be so happy, like there's no more bad days, because the chance of being able to have the time, this moment, to play an instrument, to hear the sound, and to have that experience, there's never a bad practicing day. Even with the dystonia, once I understood that it was going to be a different road, then you just kind of rejoice with it and say, well, I'm going to grow in that direction and experience music. So sometimes if you lose motivation about playing your instrument, or you think that you're not going anywhere, or that you're not playing like the way you want to play, or playing like someone else, don't despair. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is to play more like you and discover more about yourself and communicating with others in whichever means it is, in the freest manners of whatever feels right to you, because there's absolutely no wrong. All right, thank you.